This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. Good evening. Democratic presidential candidate Michael Dukakis made a strong bid today for the support of American working people. He proposed an ambitious new health insurance program that, for the first time, would insist that most employers provide their employees with medical benefits. Our coverage begins with CBS News chief political correspondent Bruce Morton.
Dukakis began his day at Herman Hospital in Houston, talking with some people who don't have health insurance, a father worried about his son.
My son would like to participate in sports, but frankly, without insurance, I'm scared to death to let him play.
A few hours later at Western Kentucky University in Bowling Green, Dukakis outlined his health care proposal, so that when Americans get sick, he said, the first question they'd hear would be the one his doctor father used to ask.
The question that doctors and nurses ask every day, not how can you pay, but where does it hurt?
Dukakis' plan, not surprisingly, is modeled on the first-in-the-country plan the Massachusetts legislature passed this year.
First, we're going to work with the nation's employers to provide a basic level of health insurance to all of our working people and their families.
Working people. Dukakis' plan is that employers would be required to offer basic health coverage. Workers might pay part of the cost. Employers would buy private health insurance. No government spending would be involved. There might be special arrangements for new businesses, helping them get lower insurance rates.
For our taxpayers, it will mean no additional burdens on the federal budget.
Dukakis staffers say about 37 million Americans now lack health insurance. This plan would cover perhaps 22 million of them. It would not cover part-time workers or the unemployed. As for George Bush, who today visited a flag factory in New Jersey, Dukakis was scornful.
Mr. Bush, don't you think it's time you came out from behind the flag and told us what you intend to do to provide basic health care for 37 million of our fellow citizens?
The speech was the new Dukakis mixture, serious proposals for dealing with a major issue, and some zingers aimed at George Bush for not dealing with that issue. Dukakis advisors like this formula and think it works for him. Both the speeches and the candidate over the past 10 days seem to have toughened up. Bruce Morton, CBS News, Bowling Green, Kentucky.
The millions of Americans with inadequate or no health insurance often work at part-time jobs for small companies in the service industries, the very sorts of jobs that have grown during the Reagan years. And not everyone realizes exactly how many people are uninsured.
Out of 250 million people? Mm-hmm. Well, I think some people don't have health insurance that can take care of their own needs, so I don't know the answer to it, no.
About 37 million, according to the statistic.
Bush hasn't said much more about health insurance, except that he wants more coverage made available through private plans and competition, not government involvement. His campaign today called Dukakis' idea socialized medicine, a prescription for financial disaster that would put the American economy in the hospital. But many healthcare advocates welcome the plan.
So you either got a choice of the government providing a health care program that many people are very uncomfortable with, or you provide a program that enables the private sector to do its job. That's the approach that the governor has selected.
We know that about a third of the uninsured are children, and we're very concerned that these children are not getting a healthy start in life.
Republicans and many in the business community denounced the proposal, though, saying it would, by definition, unfairly burden small business, even endanger prosperity.
I think it's a very high-risk strategy to levy this tax, which is basically a tax on small business, which has been the engine of economic growth and the source of most new jobs in this country.
Democrats said they understood the Republicans' reservations.
Among the George Bush la-di-da BMW set, all of whom have high-priced health insurance programs, it's not an issue.
There will be debate over whether the Dukakis plan will work, whether business should pay more. But the Democrats think they have a winning idea here, one that clearly hits a nerve among voters. Susan Spencer, CBS News, Washington.
George Bush gave his "I'm better on patriotism than Dukakis" theme another hard sell today. CBS News correspondent Bob Schieffer reports that strategy appears to be working.
These days, if there's a flag around, you can bet there's a presidential candidate close by. Flags are much in evidence at Michael Dukakis rallies. At his rallies, George Bush sometimes runs Old Glory up the flagpole himself. But today, Bush took homage to the flag to new heights. Like a pilgrim going to Mecca, Bush traveled to a New Jersey flag factory, a factory whose improving sales he often cites to argue there's been a rebirth of patriotism under the Republicans.
Flag sales are doing well, and America is doing well. And we should understand that, and we should appreciate that.
Audience members were flag factory workers and employees of the company's other flag plants who had been bussed in, and they loved it. Protesters were kept at a distance, hidden from view by Bush banners. Bush toned down his usual fire on Dukakis, giving instead a star-spangled, upbeat address.
The flags you make fly over an America today that is stronger and more prosperous than at any time in its proud history. America is that shining city on a hill because we're a nation of dreamers, a compassionate nation.
While Bush cites patriotism, flag makers say the Olympics and an improved economy are also reasons for increasing flag sales. But whatever the reasons, Bush aides say, emphasis on the flag has been very good politics for Bush.
Our polls show that overwhelmingly people are much less likely to vote for Mike Dukakis because of his stand on the Pledge of Allegiance.
And that is no exaggeration. The Bush campaign has private polls showing that in New Jersey, for example, where George Bush appeared today, voters by a 2-to-1 margin said they were less likely to vote for Dukakis once they learned he'd vetoed a law making the Pledge of Allegiance mandatory in Massachusetts classrooms. Poll findings like that are bound to mean a lot more flag waving, not less. Dan?
Thanks, Bob. And still to come on tonight's CBS Evening News, correspondent Tom Fenton on technology versus terrorism in Northern Ireland, and Bob Faw on the world's most dangerous workplace, South Korea.
Hey, McElroy, I thought you were from Illinois.
I am.
Only guys from Kentucky do that with their shredded wheat.
I've been doing this since I was a kid.
Here's how we do it in Brooklyn. First, we break them in half, and then we mash them to a pulp. Add some milk, maybe a little fruit garnish.
Nabisco shredded wheat is great no matter how you eat it because it's nutritious whole wheat with no added sugar or salt.
What do the guys from California do?
They float them.
This is precious cargo. Telecommunications equipment on its way to Japan. On another day, it might be medical systems headed for Europe. We design and build that equipment. We're Siemens USA. 27,000 people, 47 manufacturing plants, and nearly $3 billion in sales and service of electronic and electrical equipment. And each year, 15% of that is worldwide exports from America. We are Siemens USA.
Caffrey toothpaste decaffeinates your smile.
Coffee and tea can stain your smile, like they stain your cup.
Caffrey gets out coffee and tea stains better than the leading toothpaste. Caffrey toothpaste or Minty Gel. Caffrey decaffeinates your smile.
Now for indigestion, gas. Introducing new Extra Strength Malox Plus. It neutralizes more than any leading antacid and dissolves gas. Nobody does as much as new Extra Strength Malox Plus.
3 years ago, the United States Congress awarded America's Silver Cross for Valor to a brave flight attendant who stood up to terrorist hijackers defending the hostages aboard TWA Flight 847. Today, she was face-to-face again with hijacker and accused murderer Mohammed Ali Hamadi. She was a witness for the prosecution at Hamadi's murder trial in West Germany. Correspondent Bill McLaughlin is there.
TWA flight attendant Uli Derrickson, under heavy police guard, today confronted the man who just over 3 years ago forced her to interpret his demands. Accused terrorist Mohammed Ali Hamadi, on trial for the murder of Navy diver Robert Steedham, last week told the court he never held the gun. Today, Uli Derrickson totally contradicted Hamadi's story. Hamadi was the one with the pistol, she told the judge. Are you sure, the judge asked. Yes, she said. In a voice choked with emotion, Miss Derrickson told the court how Hamadi, holding his pistol to her head, made her tell the pilot to obey his orders or he'd blow up the plane in the air. Since Hamadi spoke little English but fairly good German, he continued to use the German-born Derrickson as his interpreter throughout the ordeal. She testified that Hamadi forced her to help collect passports. Hamadi then singled out 2 Americans, including Steedham, just because of their nationality. She said Hamadi shouted that America was the world's Satan, and holding up his pistol said, "This is the only language they understand." Derrickson often seemed to be on the verge of tears as she told the court how Hamadi tied up both Americans and, with his accomplice, savagely beat them. Steedham's parents listened as the flight attendant described their son as very proud and brave. No matter how badly he was beaten, she said he never cried out. Uli Derrickson told the court she was not present when Steedham was shot to death by one of the hijackers. But she testified that Hamadi had the pistol just before the murder. She told the court, "I always saw him carrying the pistol."
Uli Derrickson goes to court again tomorrow, and she'll be cross-examined by Hamadi's attorneys. They're expected to challenge her version of the facts because under West German law, it would make Hamadi guilty of Steedham's murder because he would have been a willing participant no matter who actually pulled the trigger. Bill McLaughlin, CBS News, Frankfurt.
Shortly after Hamadi was arrested in West Germany, 3 Americans, Jesse Turner, Robert Polhill, and Alan Steen, were taken hostage in Lebanon. Their fate seemed linked to Hamadi's. But even though Hamadi faces a possible sentence of life in prison, there is at least a glimmer of hope that these Americans might be freed. Their kidnappers, who call themselves the Islamic Jihad for the Liberation of Palestine, already have released a West German hostage, Rudolf Cordes, and they are hinting that the 3 Americans might be freed if only the U.S. will publicly support the Palestinian uprising in Israel. The U.S. won't go that far, but Secretary of State Schultz gave a speech which officials hope the kidnappers will read as a response.
The legitimate rights of the Palestinian people, including political rights, must also be addressed.
U.S. officials say there is no sign yet of a reaction to the Schultz speech, and no sign at all that the groups holding the other 6 American hostages in Lebanon have had a change of heart. But officials say their hopes for the hostages are based on 2 theories. First, that Iran, having agreed to a ceasefire in the war with Iraq, is ready to cease its support of terrorism in general and the taking of hostages in particular. Second, that Iran can actually compel the groups holding the hostages to release them.
Administration officials insist no concessions to Iran for hostages. But State Department officials acknowledge they are reconsidering their worldwide effort to cut off the flow of arms to Iran. When the idea came up at a White House meeting last week, it was quickly rejected as too soon. But officials say it will come up again if there is progress in the peace talks between Iran and Iraq. David Martin, CBS News, the Pentagon.
A car bomb blew up on a crowded street in East Beirut today. 5 people killed, 25 wounded. The blast came amid a new political crisis in Lebanon. Christian and Muslim factions are struggling over who will succeed President Amin Gemayel, whose term runs out on Friday. In Washington, Speaker of the House Jim Wright charged today that the CIA has been deliberately working against the peace process in Nicaragua, in some cases by trying to provoke riots. Wright said that CIA agents have told Congress that they helped organize recent anti-government demonstrations in the hope that the Sandinista government would overreact with a violent crackdown. Wright said this is not the proper role for the U.S. government. The CIA declined to comment, but some congressional intelligence sources who declined to be named told CBS News they were outraged by Wright's statement because, in their opinion, he was disclosing covert CIA activities.
Action liquid vanish, 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 clean so good, good, good impressions too. Yes, I brush with liquid vanish.
Cause it cleans tough rust stains below the waterline better than Lysol.
Action liquid vanish, clean so good impressions too.
And for an easy way to help keep your bowl clean and fresh between brushings, just pop a Vanish drop-ins in the tank. It's really neat.
Original Yoplait is the yogurt with nothing on the bottom.
Nothing on the bottom.
I have lumpy yogurt with fruit jammed on the bottom.
Nothing on the bottom.
Yoplait's smooth and creamy with fruit right up to the top.
Nothing but natural. Nothing but no fat. Nothing on the bottom. And that's the end of that.
Original Yoplait.
Nothing on the bottom. And that's the end of that.
Oh, yeah.
When your coffee is rich and satisfying, like your time alone, and it's naturally decaffeinated, it's necessarily Nescafe.
Great coffee blends to taste away. That's necessarily Nescafe.
There are headaches.
Jimmy broke your vase.
And headaches. There's aspirin and aspirin. Anacin. Clinical tests show Anacin relieves headaches better than regular aspirin.
Feel better, Mommy?
Not just better, better.
Anacin, better relief.
The military rulers of Burma appointed a new government today. 8 of the 9 cabinet members were Army generals. Demonstrators disappeared from the streets, but the state radio said soldiers opened fire on looters and armed rebels, killing 59 people. More than 200 have been reported killed since the Burmese military coup Sunday. A bomb exploded at a construction site in Belfast today, the 3rd bombing in a month in the capital of Northern Ireland. The street had been cleared following a telephone warning, and no one was hurt. No one claimed responsibility, but the blast was at the site of an Irish Republican Army attack last February that killed 3 British soldiers. Since then, the long war between the IRA and the British has escalated. Our chief European correspondent Tom Fenton has an update.
These IRA gunmen were ambushed on a quiet country lane by British military special forces. After the operation, an eyewitness said he saw the British hit squad spirited away by helicopter. The streets of Belfast are tense again, too. The British military presence has clearly been increased. The minority Catholic population from which the IRA springs is angry at the recent killings and arrests of its members. It has gone on an orgy of hijacking and burning of vehicles, 160 in a 3-day period alone.
If Margaret Thatcher's squealing about something, people here are happy.
Successive British military commanders in Northern Ireland have left here with one clear conclusion.
I do not think that you can ever talk of a military victory in this particular type of situation.
But for now, since all political options appear closed, only the military option remains. It's widely believed that this is just the beginning of a new British get tough policy, and that here, on the border in what is popularly known as bandit country, British Army Special Forces are looking for more victories against the IRA. Intelligence is the key, and the British Army watches everything. In this military computer is stored a mind-numbing array of facts about the population of Northern Ireland. Names, addresses, friends, connections, car license plates, and where people go. Cameras, some even hidden in the headlights of parked cars, photograph selected streets night and day. Patterns of movement are built up and guide the military activity on the ground. The IRA men have suffered a setback, but they tell you they will never lose this war. There will always be the young to fight. Children are the fuel of this struggle. They don't have to go to school to learn. IRA funerals may remove gunmen, but they also create heroes for the young to emulate. The greatest threat to the IRA may be its own mistakes, like one when 2 old people were accidentally killed. They walked into a booby-trap bomb set for the Army. Such tragic errors erode the support the gunmen now have in the Catholic communities that shelter them. In the end, that could spell disaster for the men who fight the long war against the British. Tom Fenton, CBS News, Belfast.
Doctors said the condition of Japanese Emperor Hirohito was stabilizing today following 3 blood transfusions. Hundreds of visitors showed up at the Imperial Palace in Tokyo, but only family members were allowed to see the emperor. He has been ill several times in recent weeks, and yesterday was reported to be coughing up blood. At age 87, Hirohito is the world's longest reigning monarch.
If you could taste time, caring, dedication. If you could taste the sun, rain, fresh air. If you could taste tradition and pride. This is what it would taste like every time. With a name like Smucker's, it has to be good.
After day, more people depend on Subaru wagons than any imported wagon in America. And with good reason. They're reliable and durable. In fact, if Subaru didn't make your life easier...
Honey, is dinner ready?
Who would?
Up to $1,000 cash back from Subaru means a great deal on a great car.
If you took an Actifed tablet for your cold, there's something you should know.
Yes, sir.
Contact 12-hour caplets work twice as long.
Gesundheit.
Until there's a cure, there's contact.
Henry?
Oh, Uncle Henry, you can do better than old-fashioned Quaker Oats.
Cannot. Wrong, Henry.
Total oatmeal's got 10 times the vitamin and mineral nutrition.
See, what you thought was in here is really in here.
If it's total oatmeal, it's total nutrition.
A new National Academy of Sciences study ordered by Congress calls homelessness, and I quote, a national disgrace. But some members of the panel charged a kind of censorship, saying the report didn't go far enough because it, again quote, did not allow us to express our outrage, our anger, and our dismay at what we studied. Correspondent Jerry Bowen looks at the plight of America's homeless children, who inspired some of that outrage and dismay.
More and more, these are the faces of America's homeless. This morning at a neighborhood church in Los Angeles, most any night in New York City, as social workers try to find them an empty bed. They are the children under age 18, the fastest growing group in America's homeless population, according to a study by the National Academy of Sciences. On any given night, they number at least 100,000, not including runaways. On any given night, 130 children and their parents are sleeping at the Bible Tabernacle in Los Angeles.
Is the problem bigger than that, do you think? Bigger than 100,000?
Could be, and it wouldn't surprise me one bit.
Why?
Why? As many as we have come through here. We have a big turnover here.
The problem is affordable housing. 2.5 million fewer low-income housing units today than in 1980. The result of a 60% cut in federal funding, according to the study. The living proof can be found at shelters. San Francisco's Raphael House, the faces of the children.
They want a home. They kept saying they wanted to go home.
The problem, reflected in recent years by families living in cars, children huddling in tent cities, is a national disgrace, said the report. A scandal, said one of the investigators.
Well, there are probably several 100,000 children in 1988 who will be homeless for several nights or more.
The solution? More money, more help. Phoenix opened a daycare center today for homeless children whose mothers are looking for work.
You're not going to fix it for nothing, and that's something people have to realize.
And Americans shouldn't be surprised by the new faces in the crowd. The homeless aren't.
They have them jam-packed in here, all the homeless. And then you go out in the streets and you still see homeless sleeping on the bench. So it doesn't surprise me.
America's homeless, a growing number of younger faces. Jerry Bowen, CBS News, Los Angeles.
The government said today that the economy grew at a robust rate in the second quarter of the year, but not quite as robustly as earlier estimated. The Commerce Department said that an export boom partly offset the downward drag of the drought, and the gross national product expanded at a strong annual rate of 3% from April through June. Earlier, that growth was estimated at 3.3%. In a separate report, the government said after-tax corporate profits jumped 8.9% in the second quarter. That was the best showing in 5 years.
Every time I hold this Olympic coin, I get goosebumps, thinking of Evelyn Ashford. What courage. She tore a leg muscle, but somehow she came back and took the gold.
Support our present and future athletes with the official U.S. Olympic commemorative coins in gold or silver from the U.S. Mint. Help America shine. Available at Kmart, participating banks, and savings and loans.
AT&T has just made Watts a whole new ballgame for any size business. Pick from a lineup of plans that give you call detail, distance-sensitive pricing, and major league discounts, even on international and AT&T card calls. If you thought AT&T Watts had just one pitch, now it's a whole new ballgame.
If you used to take capsules, the makers of Tylenol have just come up with something better. New extra-strength Tylenol gel caps. They're gelatin-coated. And compared to capsules, gel caps are 33% smaller, with all that extra-strength pain relief concentrated into a solid center under a smooth gelatin coating. So gel caps are actually easier to swallow. If you used to take capsules, try new extra-strength Tylenol gel caps. It's not a capsule. It's better.
The athletes competing in the Olympics in South Korea know there is a price to pay for excellence, and the Games offer a showcase for Korea itself, a nation trumpeting an economy that's moved into the 20th century with a rush. But in the battle for the real gold of international trade, economists question the price Korea is paying for that economic eminence. It's a cautionary tale for both management and labor involved in America's comeback on the stage of world trade. Bob Fall reports.
All that former cargo handler Kim Il-chung can do now is stare into space. Construction worker Sung Ha Soo will never walk again, much less play with his 5-year-old daughter. And because this father of 3 breathed in fumes for 10 years at his factory, that pathetic smile, says his doctor, never goes away.
Will this patient ever be the same? No. He will never improve? He's been destroyed. Yeah.
From this factory fire which scorched 8 workers, to this garment company blaze where 20 female employees died, to a 15-year-old victim of mercury poisoning mourned by this parade, South Korea is killing or maiming workers like these at a horrifying pace, the highest industrial casualty rate in the world. 5 dead, another 390 injured every day, according to the government's own statistics.
The people you see here, like the workers, their life is just being drained from them. These people are being slowly, literally killed.
Economic progress in Korea has come at a very high human cost. It's literally been fueled with industrial accidents.
Asked why a country which tries so hard to be modern should have so many industrial casualties, government and business leaders point out that Korea was flat on its back for so long, it had all it could do to worry about finding jobs, that it simply didn't have the luxury of worrying about safety.
You could call it an exploitation. Korean employers perhaps were not paying sufficient attention to the working conditions.
With Korean workers now demanding hefty wage hikes, safety, and a reduction in one of the world's longest work weeks, 59 hours, the South Korean workplace is changing. But with management often bitterly resistant, it is changing very slowly.
They beat and kick and arrest workers.
If that sounds exaggerated, consider that striking employees of the giant manufacturer Hyundai held company officials hostage in a boardroom for 6 days after 2 senior company executives paid a gangster to kidnap this company employee who was trying to unionize white-collar workers.
They beat me. I thought they might kill me.
The government has instituted reforms. New laws attempt to set minimum safety standards.
We should improve the working condition by preventing labor industrial accidents.
But the new laws are largely unenforced.
The weak are always exploited. In Korea, the weak among the weak are workers, and they're exploited at the moment.
And as workers continue to suffer, more Koreans are asking if the price of progress has been too high. Why me, asks the grieving wife over and over. Why me? And why him? Bob Fall, CBS News, Seoul.
And that's tonight's CBS Evening News. Dan Rather, see you tomorrow. Good night.
While the Today Show is off the air for Olympic coverage, CBS invites you to watch Kathleen Sullivan and Harry Smith all this week on CBS This Morning.
This is CBS.